Social neuroscience continued. And maybe people talk about other stuff besides social internet, but I think social internet starts to get to the false kind of conditions in place for the social world. I started Have You Ever, as my kind of neurophilosophy, part of my medical school application, and some of what I've learned along the way in my studies. And partly because I'm a little bit autistic, so I don't get social stuff, but I appreciate the 1990s and the early 2000s when folks talk to one another about, buffets. I mean, good gosh, you talk to a person about hunting buffets and you have camouflage. Oh, emotion, 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 emotion. Time for a non-GMO smoothie and a shot of wheatgrass with a vegan pastry. Completely racist, completely nasty and vicious words I just spoke. For some people. But when there are funny parts to what's happening, then the work has been completed. Yeah, the sloth got an eviction notice for the whole floor. Nobody's on this street. Come on, it's emotional, it's scary, it's terrifying. Nobody's getting thrown out. That's why I live where I live, because I mean, people down the hall kick their door all the time. They don't get thrown out. A guy looks like he's quarantined in there. He's got like 10 pieces of paper on there on the door. Looks like there's like a caged animal with like the live and do not pet and like do not get 5 feet near the beast. The coolest parts I remember of like having friends and like doing stuff was always trying to be better and more exciting. That's why your friends and stuff were so fun, because you had the groups. You just had the one person or whatever, whatever else. But people always trying to make people laugh. People always trying to, I walked off a building just to be like, like whoop-de-doop-de, and those were the early days. Now, college graduate, hardworking and excited medical school, graduate applicant. But part of what I learned was such a in-depth process to go and learn a profession like being a doctor and surgery has to do with what people have told me along the way, have fun. I mean, good gosh, doesn't that apply to just about, everything from going to an amusement park? Like, man, don't always pick where you're going. Have fun. And, like at Disney World when I visited when I was younger, it was like right when I turned 21, I remember, and we found out like, well, all the countries had the different, places where you got beer. So, going on like a beer tour, not to like sit down and just drink and drink and drink, but fun going to like the different places and seeing the different styles and, you know, the different types and the different tastes and the different cultures. And the all lives matter with, I think, some of the bad parts I've seen, having been homeless, having had friends in Arizona growing up who weren't white racist nationalists, you know. I really hope that goes away, though. Seriously, that's the worst social noticeable event that I've seen for a while. Because, gosh, I actually expected to see more racist people when I was homeless, but the freaky part had to do with more people looking for racists than there were people who were out to like just be mean. Like, yeah, there were mean people from white people, there were mean people from African American people, there were mean people from all over, you know, hitting me and, you know, telling me, you know, with their, you know, pants unzipped and their genitalia thrown out into the world, you know, suck my dick. Like, oh, that's man, it's an unusual suggestion to make, you know. Like, I thought they used to call that, like, you know, exposing yourself, but no police came and took him away. Video camera. Maybe they saw the footage and maybe they just didn't care. I don't know, but nobody even did anything. It's just like, oh, that guy just pulled out his penis. You know, socially, well, how do you make sense of that? You know, like, it's really sharing a part of your body in the world. Like the, you know, naked parades and stuff, and kind of like what I'm trying to describe with all of the kind of moving parts to my social explanation and the missing pieces and the well thought out strategies and, you know, tactics for having better conversation. You know, have you ever asked a person on a bus? Have you ever? No. There are animals you can have for service who are sloths. The beginning might be hard. People might once in a while just say, hey, you're a bitch. You know, like, you are not being nice to the old people. You're making these kids afraid, you know, with your eyes. You know, the social worker said, oh man, you looked tired. You know, your eyes looked baggy and your face looked saggy, and basically, well, you look like shit. And it's kind of like the bumps along the way with the more thoughtful social interaction than the emotionally restrained discussion. In other words, you know, problems, frustrations, they used to call it bitching. And then, every once in a while, meeting someone and going, hey, you want to go out sometime, and have them like kind of look at you like, well, then go on Tinder. I'm sure you got a smartphone. Go on Tinder. The only way to make progress socially, and I think to have some of what the political activists and politicians are talking about, has to do with relaxing socially and not always wanting to be stimulated, not always wanting to be brain. And why emotions are kind of limited. It keeps the brain real straight, real concentrated and focused, and really being kind and gentle and thoughtful. But a service animal that gets the whole floor eviction notices, well, there's cause for worry, like a big, problem for people, they might get anxious, they might get worried, and that's where, Buddhism becomes important, because it's, an explanation needed by the person who's being funny. Making a story that's just, in the old days they used to say, batshit crazy. The person in the ashram needs to freaking go be their little ooker, durker, burger, and leave everyone else alone. Stop saying mean stuff. Everybody hears, everybody knows, and everybody is aware. And you cannot keep doing what you're doing. For heaven's sake, it's like, it's like the barista I asked out one time finally, because she kept talking to me about neuroscience, like the librarian. Hey, pretty lady, like, I've, dated people in the old days, like, I never, like, tricked someone into going out, but, fell in love more than once. That's the beneficial emotion, rejection. It's like, you're gonna ask the librarian out on a date? Oh, geez. I can imagine my social worker who went to UW now. Kind of like when I called her, about the eviction stuff, and my bad posture and my ugly appearance. They are, no matter what as a final conclusion, way more exciting than, in kind of a personal description, but way more emotionally satisfying than words. The end.